Riker wasn't the kind of guy who got love letters. He wasn't unpopular or anything. He had friends, got decent grades, and had a pretty decent face. But love letters, that was new. So when Samantha, one of the cuttest girls in school, shyly handed him a small box wrapped in pastel pink paper with an envelope, his jaw dropped in surprise. This is for me, he asked, his voice cracking slightly. Samantha giggled, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Yeah, just read it later, okay? Then she was gone, disappearing into the crowd of students rushing to class. Riker stared at the box in his hands, still shocked at the entire situation. Oh, what's that? A familiar voice said behind him, and before Riker could react, the gift was snatched from his hands. Riker groaned. Jace, seriously. Jace Sinclair, his best friend and the biggest menace in his life, looked at the box now in his hands mischievously. He was grinning like a little kid about to cause trouble. Ah, is someone in love? Jace teased, poking Riker's cheek. It's just a gift. Oh, sure, Jace said dramatically. A random girl hands you a cute little box with a letter, looking all blushy and nervous, but it's totally just a gift. Riker snatched it back, scowling. What is your deal? Can you let me have one moment without? He didn't even get to finish, because the next thing he knew, Jace grabbed his face, leaned in, and kissed him. Right there, in the middle of the hallway. In front of, half the school. It wasn't a serious kiss, just a quick press of lips barely a second long. But Riker's brain, gone, absolutely fried. By the time he recovered, Jace was already laughing, slinging an arm around Riker's shoulders like he hadn't just done that. Dude, Jace said, smirking, you should have seen your face. Riker shoved him off, face burning. What the hell was that? Jace shrugged, totally unfazed. Relax, it's a joke. A joke? Riker repeated, dumbfounded. Since when is kissing your best friend a joke? Jace gave him a look like duh. Since always. Oh, right, because this wasn't the first time. In fact, now that Riker thought about it, it had happened a lot. The first time was in freshman year when Riker told Jace he thought a girl in his math class was cute. Jace had laughed, said, "What, so you want her to kiss you like this," and then kissed him right on the cheek. Then there was another time in sophomore year. Riker got asked out at a party, and Jace conveniently joked about making him unavailable by kissing him on the forehead in front of everyone. And now, junior year, gift from a girl, another joke kiss but on the lips. Riker was starting to think it wasn't a joke at all. He narrowed his eyes. Do you do this to anyone else or just me? Jace grinned. You're special, buddy. Riker didn't say anything to that. His mind was racing. This was not normal best friend behavior. After school, Riker and Jace walked home together like they always did. But today, Riker was distracted. He kept looking at the pink-wrapped box in his hands. He hadn't opened it yet, mostly because someone had spent the entire day making obnoxious kissy noises every time Riker even looked at it. Now, in the safety of his room, Riker finally sat on his bed, peeling open the envelope first. Jace, of course, flopped down next to him, completely uninvited. All right, let's see what Lover Girl has to say, Jace said. He was smirking, but it almost looked forced. Riker rolled his eyes. You don't get to read it. Jace gasped dramatically. What, but I'm your best friend. And that's exactly why you're not reading it, Riker muttered, unfolding the letter. As his eyes scanned the written words, a smile tugged at his lips before he could stop it. Hey Riker, I know this is kinda random, but I think you're really sweet. You always help people in class, and I like how you laugh at the dumbest things. It's cute. Don't fight me on this. Anyway, I hope you like the gift, no pressure or anything. Just wanted you to know that someone thinks you're pretty amazing. Riker bit his lip, warmth spreading through his chest. That was actually really nice. Then, suddenly, snatch. Before Riker could even process what was happening, the letter was gone and Jace was holding it over his head. Jace, Riker shouted, scrambling up to grab it. Jace dodged, grinning wickedly. Aw, Ree, she thinks you're amazing. And cute, you must be so happy right now. I will kill you, Riker swore, lunging at him. But Jace was faster. He stuffed the letter behind his back and looked at Riker with a smirk. Man, Jace sighed dramatically, shaking his head. You get all smiley over a little letter, but when I say you're cute, you just threaten me. Riker froze. What? Jace leaned in, and this time he didn't just give Riker a quick, teasing peck. No, this time Jace cupped Riker's face, tilted his head slightly, and actually kissed him. It wasn't long, it wasn't even deep, but it was different. There was no loud laughter after. No just joking to brush it off, just silence. Jace pulled back, searching Riker's face, his usual playful smirk replaced with something Riker couldn't quite place. And Riker. His heart was slamming against his ribs, his brain was completely offline. What the hell was that? Riker finally managed. Jace blinked, then casually shrugged. Dunno, just felt like it, just felt like it. Riker gaped at him, struggling for words, but all he could do was press a hand to his lips where Jace had actually just kissed him. Jace flopped back onto the bed, stretching like nothing happened. Sue, what did she get you? Riker stared at him still with his eyes wide. This doesn't seem like a joke. The next morning, Riker woke up with Jace's kiss still burned into his mind. It didn't feel real. It didn't even make sense. He replayed it over and over, the way Jace's fingers had pressed into his jaw, how warm his lips had been, how he had looked at Riker after, like he was waiting for something. And then, nothing. Jace had shrugged it off like it was no big deal, changed the subject like he hadn't just kissed his best friend for real. Riker was going insane. He barely paid attention in class. Every time he looked at Jace, his stomach flipped. But the worst part was that Jace acted like nothing happened. He still stole fries off his lunch tray and still talked to him like he hadn't just ruined Riker's ability to think straight. And Riker, he didn't know how to bring it up. He didn't even know if he should. So, instead of confronting Jace, he spent the entire day acting extra nice to Samantha. Because why not? She actually liked him. She wasn't confusing. She wasn't playing weird mind games, and Riker needed the distraction. Whoa, Samantha laughed at lunch. You're in a good mood today. Am I? Riker said, rubbing the back of his neck. Maybe I just like your company. Samantha raised a brow. Flirting. From you. Riker chuckled, shaking his head. He wasn't really trying to flirt. He just wanted to stop thinking about someone else. From across the cafeteria, Jace had been watching the whole thing. His usual teasing smirk gone. His eyes were locked on Riker and Samantha like a predator sizing up competition, jaw tight, fingers drumming against the table. Every time Riker leaned in just a little too close, Jace's grip on his drink tightened. After school, Riker went home alone because Jace said he had somewhere to be, which was odd. Later that night, Riker received a text from Jace. Jace, come pick me up. Riker frowned, sitting up in bed. Riker? What? Where are you? Jace. Party. Can't drive, come get me. Riker sighed. Jace never planned when he was going to drink too much. He just did, and then Riker had to deal with the aftermath. Grabbing his jacket, he snuck out of the house, heart hammering in his chest. When he arrived at the party, it didn't take long to spot Jace. He was completely wasted. His hair was a mess, his shirt was half unbuttoned, and he was grinning when he saw Riker. There's my guy, Jace said drunkenly, throwing an arm around Riker's shoulders. Took you long enough. You reek, Riker muttered as they made their way outside. Jace just chuckled, his breath warm against Riker's neck. Missed you. Riker swallowed. You saw me this morning. Jace hummed, swaying slightly. You were busy today. Riker glanced at him. What does that mean? But Jace didn't answer. He just let himself be dragged to the car. By the time they got to Riker's house, Jace could barely stand. Once inside his bedroom, he dropped Jace onto the bed with a sigh. You're so annoying, Riker muttered, running a hand through his hair. Jace just grinned lazily from where he was sprawled out. But you love me. Riker's stomach flipped. Shut up, he mumbled. But then Jace grabbed his wrist, tugging him down onto the bed. Well, what are you doing? Jace pinned him on the bed, one hand on Riker's wrist, the other sliding up his side. Riker stopped breathing. Jace was closer than he'd ever been before. "Jace," Riker whispered, swallowing hard. "What are you doing?" Jace didn't answer. He just stared down at Riker, then he kissed him. But this time, it wasn't quick. It wasn't teasing. It was slow, deep, his lips warm and slightly parted, his hands slipping under Riker's hoodie, fingers trailing up his stomach. Riker's head spun. Jace kissed him like he wanted it. And Riker wanted it too. His hands found Jace's shoulders, his own lips parting slightly, a shudder running through him when Jace sucked on his bottom lip. Then, suddenly Jace broke away. Riker blinked up at him, dazed. Jace's gaze was dark, his breathing uneven. And in one slow motion, he pulled his shirt off. Jace was shirtless, in his bed. And then, just as quickly as things had escalated, Jace went completely still. His grip on Riker loosened. And just like that, he fell asleep. Right on top of Riker. Riker lay there stunned. Was this real? Did this just happen? His heart pounded so hard he was sure Jace could hear it even in his sleep. He had a half-naked best friend on top of him, who had just kissed the hell out of him, and who had also passed out like it was nothing. The next morning, Riker barely slept. He spent the whole night lying awake, his brain replaying what happened over and over. When Jace finally started to wake up, Riker immediately sat up, watching him carefully. Jace blinked grudgingly, rubbing his face. "Oop, what the hell happened?" Riker's stomach dropped. Do you remember last night?" Jace let out a tired laugh. "Dude, I was trashed. I barely remember getting here." Riker's heart sank. He was lying. Riker knew he was lying. "Jace," he said slowly, voice quieter now. You kissed me." For a second, Jace didn't react. Then, with a lazy stretch, he laughed. "Oh, please, I've kissed you plenty of times." Riker's jaw clenched. "Not like that." Jace's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. "Relax, he said, his voice sounding too casual. It didn't mean anything. Riker stared at him. Jace stood up, stretching like this was just any other morning. "Anyway," Jace said, flashing a grin. "I'm starving. You got anything to eat?" Riker's hands curled into fists. It was happening again. Jace was running, pushing him away, brushing it off like it was just another joke. And this time, he wasn't going to let it go. Riker didn't talk to Jace the next day, or the day after that, or the day after that. He wasn't doing it to be petty. He just couldn't keep doing this. He was tired of the games, the back and forth, the way Jace acted like what happened between them was some mistake while still kissing him every time he got too close to someone else. So Riker made a decision. If Jace wanted to pretend like nothing was going on between them, then fine, nothing was going on between them. And if that meant spending time with someone else, then so be it. Samantha was cute. She was funny, nice, and actually liked him without playing stupid mind games. So when she invited him to study with her in the library after school, he said yes. And when she laughed at his dumb jokes, he laughed too. And when she leaned a little closer, twirling a strand of her hair, Riker tried really hard to pretend he didn't feel Jace's eyes burning into the back of his head. Because, of course, Jace had found him. He was watching from the other side of the library, sitting with some random people he never even studied with, looking like he wanted to murder someone. But Riker ignored him. He focused on Samantha, on her smile, on the way she looked at him. And it was nice. Or it was, until she grabbed his hand, gently pulling him closer, almost looking like she was about to kiss him. But before Riker could react, Jace was already standing there. "Hey, Riker barely had time to turn before Jace grabbed his face and kissed him, right in front of Samantha, right in the middle of the library, right where everyone could see. It wasn't a soft kiss. It wasn't playful. It wasn't like all the other ones before. It was possessive, like Jace was claiming him, and for a second Riker was too shocked to move. Then he shoved Jace off, hard. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Riker snapped, standing up so fast his chair nearly fell over. Jace didn't look the least bit sorry, he just smirked, crossing his arms like he hadn't kissed Riker in front of everyone. Samantha was still sitting there, staring. Her face was red, her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to process what just happened. And then without a word, she grabbed her stuff and ran out of the library. Riker wanted to run after her, to explain, to fix it. But instead, he turned to Jace fuming. The hell was that? Jace shrugged, still acting completely unbothered. What? Thought you liked when I kissed you. Riker nearly punched him, but he didn't, because he knew exactly what Jace was doing, and he refused to give him what he wanted. So instead, he took a slow, steady breath. Go to hell, Jace, he said with a calm voice. And with that, he grabbed his bag and walked away. Riker ran after Samantha. He barely made it down the hall before he spotted her near the lockers, shoving books into her bag with way more force than necessary. Samantha, wait, he called, jogging up to her. She didn't look at him, don't. Riker exhaled, running a hand through his hair. I swear that wasn't your fault. She finally turned, giving him a look. Riker, come on? Riker opened his mouth, then shut it. Because, honestly, what was he even supposed to say? Samantha sighed, crossing her arms. Riker, he likes you. Riker blinked. What? She scoffed. Are you serious? He literally kissed you in front of me like he was marking his territory. Riker frowned. No, he was just. Samantha gave him a flat look. Riker groaned. Okay, fine, but that doesn't mean he likes me. Samantha rolled her eyes. Oh my God, you're so blind. Riker huffed, leaning against the lockers. He keeps denying it. Every time I bring it up, he acts like it's nothing. Samantha tilted her head, and you believe him. Riker hesitated. Jace did keep pushing him away, kept brushing everything off like it was no big deal. But at the same time, every time Riker got close to someone else, Jace had to interfere, like he was scared of Riker slipping away. Like he did care, just not enough to admit it. Riker exhaled sharply. It doesn't matter. He's never gonna be honest about it. Samantha suddenly clapped her hands together, her eyes lighting up. Oh my God, she gasped. This is so much better than I thought. Riker blinked. What? Samantha grinned. You and Jace, the childhood best friends to lovers arc. The slow burn, the jealousy, she actually squealed. I love BL stories, and you guys are living one right in front of me. Riker stared. Samantha? She ignored him, already pulling out her phone. Okay, I need to think. How do we get him to confess? Riker groaned, dragging a hand down his face. Samantha, please. Before Riker could argue, she spun around and started walking away. Where are you going? Riker asked. Samantha turned with an evil smirk. No. Where? Jace was chilling by the vending machines when Samantha appeared in front of him. He blinked. She tilted her head. Jace. He narrowed his eyes. Samantha. She grinned. We need to talk. About what? Samantha leaned in, voice a little too cheerful. Oh, I dunno. Maybe about how you keep kissing your best friend but refuse to admit you're in love with him. Jace choked. What? He coughed. What the hell are you talking about? Samantha sighed dramatically. Oh, Jace, sweet dumb idiot Jace. Jace frowned. Excuse me? Look. She leaned against the vending machine. I'm gonna make this simple. You like Riker, but for some reason, you keep acting like a moron about it. Jace's heart slammed against his ribs. Wait, no, I don't. Samantha put a hand up. Don't lie to me. Jace shut his mouth. Because she was right. She knew. Jace clenched his fists. I can't. Samantha's smirk softened. Can't what? Jace exhaled, looking away. I can't ruin things. Samantha blinked. Jace rubbed the back of his neck. He's my best friend. His throat felt tight. If I tell him, and if he doesn't feel the same, he shook his head, I can't lure him. Samantha stared at him for a moment. Then she smacked his arm. Ow, what the hell? Idiot. She scolded. He does feel the same. Jace froze. Samantha rolled her eyes. God, you two are so hopeless. Jace's mind was spinning. Riker liked him. After all the teasing, the fights, the running away, he actually liked him back. Jace's stomach flipped. You're lying, he said weakly. Samantha sighed, rubbing her temples. You absolute moron. Then she smirked. But don't worry, I have a plan. What do you mean, a plan? He asked, narrowing his eyes. Samantha grinned. Oh, nothing. Just a little push to help you get your head out of your ass. Jace scowled. I don't need a push. Really? She crossed her arms. Then why haven't you confessed? Jace tensed. I don't like Riker like that. Samantha actually laughed in his face. Oh my god, you're so full of shit. Jace rolled his eyes. I'm serious. Samantha stepped closer, smirking up at him. Then why did you get jealous and kissed him in front of me? Jace looked away, clenching his jaw. Samantha's smirk widened. Exactly. Jace exhaled sharply, dragging a hand through his hair. What do you want? Samantha clapped her hands. Glad you asked. Jace had a bad feeling about this. I want you, she said, to make Riker jealous. Jace blinked, then stared at her like she had two heads. Excuse me? Samantha wiggled her eyebrows. You've been making him mad this whole time. Why not make him want you instead? Jace crossed his arms. That's stupid. Samantha raised an eyebrow. Is it? Jace hesitated. Because, okay. Yeah, he had noticed the way Riker reacted whenever he got to close. The way he looked at Jace like he didn't know whether to punch him or pull him closer. And how exactly do you plan on making him jealous? Samantha grinned. Easy? Riker was already regretting coming to school. After everything yesterday, he just wanted a break, a moment of peace. A single day where Jace wasn't messing with his head. He stepped into the cafeteria and saw Samantha, sitting at a table, with Jace. And not just sitting, laughing, giggling, flipping her hair. And Jace, that traitor, was leaning in like he was actually enjoying it. Riker felt something hot bubble in his chest. No, absolutely not. He stormed over. What the hell is going on? Samantha blinked up at him innocently. Oh, hi, Riker, what's up? Riker ignored her, glaring at Jace. Jace just smirked. Something wrong. Riker's eye twitched. Jace was enjoying this. Riker turned to Samantha, narrowing his eyes. She smiled sweetly. Oh, so this was planned. Riker clenched his fists. He wasn't sure why he was mad. He had no reason to be mad. But seeing Jace all over Samantha made him feel weird. Oh my god, Samantha whispered, eye shining. You're jealous. Riker's stomach flipped. Jace's smirk widened. Are you Riker froze. Jealous, he scoffed, crossing his arms. Why the hell would I be jealous? Samantha smirked. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you're glaring at us like you want to flip the table over. Jace leaned back, looking smug. Relax, We were just talking. Riker hated how casual he sounded. I don't care, Riker lied through his teeth. You can do whatever you want. Jace's smirk deepened. Good to know. And then, the bastard put his arm around Samantha's shoulders. Riker saw red. It was so obviously fake. He knew what Jace was doing, but it still made his skin burn. Samantha was not helping. She leaned into Jace's side dramatically, resting her head on his shoulder like they were in love. Riker's eye twitched. You've got to be kidding me. Jace chuckled. Something wrong, I hate you? Jace grinned. No, you don't. Riker clenched his jaw. He knew if he stayed here any longer, he was going to do something stupid, like grab Jace by the collar and kiss him back. So instead, he walked away. Samantha gasped dramatically. Wait, where are you going? Riker didn't stop. Away from you lunatics. Jace called after him, voice teasing. You sure you don't want to stay, babe? Riker flipped him off without looking back. Samantha waited until Riker was gone before she turned to Jace, grinning. Well, that worked perfectly. Jace, however, was still watching Riker's retreating figure, something unreadable in his expression. Samantha raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? Jace exhaled, running a hand through his hair. He was actually mad. Duh. Samantha rolled her eyes. That was the point. Jace frowned. Yeah, that was the point. But something about Riker's reaction. Jace swallowed hard. I'm going to talk to him, he said, and almost sprinted towards Jace. Jace found Riker outside, pacing behind the gym. He looked pissed. Riker snapped his head up when he heard footsteps. What the hell do you want? Jace raised an eyebrow. Just checking in, you stormed off pretty fast. Oh. Screw you, Jace. Jace's smirk faded. Riker almost never snapped at him like that. Damn, Jace muttered, you're jealous. Riker scoffed, turning away. Go to hell. Jace followed, stepping in front of him. Why are you so mad? You know why, Riker exploded, shoving Jace's chest hard, but Jace barely stumbled. He tilted his head, crossing his arms. No, actually. Why don't you tell me? Riker glared. You kissed me yesterday, Jace. Jace swallowed. So, Riker let out a humorless laugh. And then you denied it like a coward. Jace stiffened. Riker kept going, voice sharp. You always do this. You get in my face, you kiss me like it's a joke, and then act like I'm crazy for reacting. Do you know how confusing that is? I didn't mean to mess with you. Jace muttered quietly. Riker stared at him. Well, you are. Jace tensed as Riker took a step closer. You keep acting like you don't like me, Riker said, his voice quieter now. Jace swallowed hard. But then you touch me, and you kiss me. Jace froze as Riker made his way closer. Jace's heart was pounding. He should have said something, anything, but he couldn't, because Riker was looking at him like that. And before Jace could even process it, Riker grabbed him by the collar and kissed him. He gasped against Riker's lips, eyes wide. But then Riker's fingers curled into his hoodie, pulling him in deeper, and Jace melted. His hands found Riker's waist, holding tight as their lips moved together, hungry, desperate, angry, like Riker was trying to prove a point. And Jace let him, because if this was how Riker wanted to fight, Jace would fight him all day. Jace was still dizzy from the kiss when Riker suddenly pulled away. His lips were swollen, his breathing uneven, but his eyes were cold. Jace blinked. Riker. Riker smirked. But it wasn't the kind Jace was used to. It was mean. Oh, relax, Jace, he said, voice light. It was just a joke. Jace's stomach dropped. Riker patted his cheek. Don't take it so seriously. And then he turned and walked away. Jace just stood there, frozen. His heartbeat was still racing, but Riker's words echoed in his head. Just a joke? Jace didn't go after him because what could he even say? But by the time night rolled around, he was losing his mind. So he grabbed his keys, got in his car, and drove to Riker's house. He climbed up to Riker's window like he always did, knocking against the glass. There was a long pause. Then finally, Riker appeared. He stared at Jace through the window, face unreadable. Jace swallowed. Let me in. Riker didn't move. Go home. No. Jace exhaled sharply. Not until we talk. Riker hesitated. Then with a sigh, he unlocked the window. Jace climbed in, landing in the familiar space of Riker's room. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jace crossed his arms. What the hell was that today? Riker shrugged. I told you. A joke. Jace's jaw tightened. Bullshit. Riker let out a laugh, shaking his head. Oh, so it's bullshit when I do it, but when you do it, that's not the same. Jace cut in. Riker's expression turned sharp, isn't it? Jace clenched his fists. Riker took a step closer. That's how I felt. Jace, he said, voice low. Every single time you did it to me. Jace swallowed hard. You kissed me, Riker continued, and then you'd pretend like it never happened. Like it was a joke, like I was a joke. Jace's throat tightened. Riker let out a humorless laugh, so I wanted you to know what it felt like. Jace exhaled. Riker. Riker shook his head. Don't. Jace ran a hand through his hair, frustration building. He knew he'd messed up. He knew he had been unfair. But he hadn't realized how much it had actually hurt Riker. And now that he did, his chest ached. Riker. Jace said, quieter this time. I'm sorry. Riker didn't say anything. He just looked at Jace, and he could see the way Riker's guard was up. The way he wanted to believe Jace, but didn't trust himself to. Jace's heart squeezed. He stepped closer, hesitating before reaching out, fingers brushing against Riker's wrist. Riker didn't pull away. Jace swallowed. I won't do it again. Riker looked at him, eyes searching. Do what? Jace exhaled. Kiss you like it's a joke. Because it never was. Riker's breath hitched. Then prove it. A determined smile tugged at Jace's lips. Okay, he murmured. I will. Riker didn't expect Jace to actually do anything, not right away. But the moment Jace muttered, okay, I will, Riker barely had time to process before Jace was moving toward him, closing the space between them. Riker's breath caught. Jace wasn't teasing this time. He wasn't smirking or playing around. He was just looking at him. Focused? Jace tilted his head. You told me to prove it. Riker swallowed. Jace took another step forward, so tell me to stop. Riker's pulse was racing. His head screamed at him to shove Jace away. Do not let this happen. Because if it wasn't a joke anymore, then it was real. And Riker wasn't sure if he was ready for that. But his body wasn't moving. He didn't push Jace away, didn't step back, didn't tell him to stop, and Jace noticed. His lips curved slightly. Thought so. Jace leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't rough or rushed. It was soft. Slow. Riker felt his knees buckle. His hands flew up, gripping Jace's hoodie for support. Jace's free hand found Riker's waist. Riker shivered. Jace kissed him deeper, and Riker let him. Because, damn it, he wanted this. He wanted Jace, even if it was terrifying, even if it changed everything. He didn't care anymore, so he kissed him back. And it was so much better than before, because this time, it was real. Riker barely remembered how they got from standing to this. 1 second, Jace was kissing him, and the next they were stumbling back onto the bed. Jace hovered on him, lips trailing down his jaw, fingers gripping his waist tight. Riker's hands tugged on Jace's hair just to hear that low groan Jace made when he did it. And when Jace tugged at the hem of Riker's shirt, Riker didn't stop him. Didn't want to stop him until, oh my God, both boys froze. The door was wide open, and standing there was Riker's mom, holding a laundry basket. Her eyes widened. Oh. Riker immediately shoved Jace off, scrambling to sit up. Jace, to his credit, tried to play it cool. He flopped onto his back panting, staring up at the ceiling like nothing happened. Riker, however, was dying inside. His mom raised an eyebrow. Well, if you're gonna be doing that, at least be responsible. Riker felt his soul leave his body. Mom. She gave them both a pointed look. I have condoms in the bathroom cabinet. Jace choked. Riker's face burned. Mom, stop talking. She shrugged, setting the laundry down on his chair, just making sure you're being safe. Riker covered his face with his hands, muttering, this is the worst day of my life. I'm moving out. Riker groaned, collapsing back onto the bed. His mom just laughed, dinner's in an hour. Then she walked out, leaving the two of them in complete horror. But then Jace turned his head. So, condoms in the bathroom, huh? Riker threw a pillow at his face. The next day, the second Riker sat down next to Samantha at lunch. She gasped. Riker frowned. What? Samantha grinned. Oh my God. Riker shifted uncomfortably. What? She narrowed her eyes. Something happened. Riker stiffened. Nothing happened. Her grin widened. You're lying. I'm not. Samantha leaned in, studying him. Then her eyes lit up. Oh my God. She clapped her hands. You totally hooked up. Riker choked on his drink. Jace, who had just sat down across from them, smirked. Wow, Sammy, right on the nose. Samantha squealed. Riker glared at Jace. Shut up. Samantha gasped dramatically. So you are dating now. Riker turned red. We never said that. Jace propped his chin on his hand. No, but we should. Riker shot him a glare. Do you ever shut up? Jace grinned. Not when it's this fun. Samantha practically vibrated with excitement. I knew it, she said. You guys are finally together. Riker groaned, covering his face. Jace just laughed, nudging his foot under the table. And as much as Riker wanted to be annoyed, he couldn't help but smile a little. For the next week, Samantha wouldn't shut up. Every time Riker and Jace were in the same room, she'd smirk at them like she knew all their secrets. Which she kinda did. Okay, she said one day, plopping down next to them at lunch. So when's the official announcement? Jace raised a brow. What announcement? That you two are dating, duh. Riker groaned. We're not making an announcement. Samantha rolled her eyes. Well, you should. Jace leaned back, grinning. What? You want us to make out in the middle of the cafeteria? Riker turned red. No one wants that. Samantha gasped. I do. Jace laughed. Riker glared at both of them. But later that day, when they were walking home, Riker caught Jace looking at him. He frowned. What? Jace shrugged, stuffing his hands in his pockets. You really don't want people to know. Riker hesitated. It wasn't that he was embarrassed. He just didn't know how to do this. Jace had been his best friend since forever. He meant everything. Riker exhaled. I don't care if people know, he admitted. Jace watched him carefully. Just what? Riker hesitated. I just want to do this right, he said quietly. Jace's expression softened. Okay, he said. Then we do it your way. Jace reached out, slipping his fingers through Riker's. This wasn't a joke. It never had been. And maybe it never would be again. The end.